Now, Mr. Agarwal, you have the floor. And Mr. Agarwal is whole-time board member of the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Please, you have the floor.
Professor Kirchner, my colleague panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Friends, the investors give their money, hard-earned money, to the corporations on trust. They want their money to appreciate. They do not know the business, they do not know the intricacies of the business. That is why they trust the management of the company and hand over their hard-earned money to them. The management is supposed to hold this money as a trustee and do business with them, with that, and hand over the profits to the shareholders. In fact, the corporate governance is basically a recognition of the inalienable rights of the shareholders as the real owners of the corporation, and the role of management as trustee of the shareholders, as also the recognition of the distinction between the personal money and the corporation's money. If this realization is there, then probably there is no need for any code of corporate governance. But normally this is not the case. The management doesn't have this self-realization. That is why the regulators have to step in. Regulators have to lay down certain rules. Regulators have to lay down certain mechanism to ensure that the principles of corporate governance are followed and the management does not forget that the shareholders are the real owners of the corporation. There are regulatory costs involved in the enforcement of the corporate governance. But most of us will agree that such costs are bearable because they will bring various benefits, much more benefit in the form of participation of the shareholders in the business of the corporation. And more mobilization of the money can be made if the shareholders have trust in the management. This aspect is very particularly important in the case of a country like India, where we expect large mobilization of the funds from the small shareholders. As you may be aware that India is a country which is having very substantial household savings, that is approximately 32% of the GDP. We would like more and more money to be channelized into the productive process. This channelization is not possible unless the shareholders have the trust in the corporations. As far as corporate governance infrastructure of India is concerned, I would like to inform that the structure is more or less in compliance with the OECD principles, the 6 principles laid down by OECD. And India is in continuous dialogue with the OECD. But still, we are not satisfied. The government is not satisfied. The regulator is not satisfied. We are trying to continuously improve upon our mechanism for enforcing the corporate governance. To give you a brief idea of the corporate governance infrastructure in India, I would like to first mention about the Companies Act 1956 that provides for the basic framework of corporate governance. Certain provisions have been inserted in the Companies Act which take care of the corporate governance. But the SEBI Act also lays down a condition, SEBI Act gives power to the regulator to lay down conditions for listing of the companies. It is through this provision the SEBI is enforcing corporate governance in the listed companies. The another act, Securities Contract Regulation Act, also provides that in case this listing agreement is not adhered to by the companies, then SEBI can take action against those companies. SEBI, after own introspection and considering various episodes around the world like Enron and Satyam in India, has been updating the corporate governance mechanism as far as the listed companies are concerned. And various provisions have been inserted very recently, like disclosure of the placed shares by the promoters, agreement with the agreement of the corporations with the media companies, and the peer review has been made necessary for the auditors of the Sensex and Nifty companies, and the disclosure of the voting results of the company and the e-voting, etc., have already been provided. And there is another provision which has been brought in is that wherever there are qualified audit reports, they have to be examined by some committee. And various committees have worked on this. For example, Narayan Murthy committee, who was the chairman of Infosys, and then afterwards Adi Godrej committee, which have come out with their report last year only. And after considering all these reports, even the Companies Act is in the process of amendment, and which has already been passed by Lok Sabha and is lying in the upper house, which has brought in very substantial change in the whole mechanism. SEBI is also in the process of aligning its own listing agreement, that is clause 49, with the proposals and the various proposals in the various reports of OECD and Adi Godrej committee and Narayan Murthy committee, and also the provisions which have already been inserted in the company's bill. I will not go into the details of the recommendations of various committees and the provisions of company's bill, but I would like to present basic gist of the provisions which are being under contemplation, and they have also been displayed on the SEBI website through a concept paper. A very comprehensive concept paper has been prepared on corporate governance, and these proposals have been made. And once we receive the public comments, we will be implementing them. For example, a very important issue which has come up is that how the independent director should be appointed. If the independent directors are supposed to watch the interest of the minority shareholders, then why the minority shareholders should not appoint them or should not elect them? It is, as per the present provisions, it is the majority shareholders who are appointing the independent directors. So there is a proposal that at least one independent director should be elected by the minority shareholders. Then there is a proposal to mandate compulsory certification of the independent directors so that they become conscious of their role and their duties, and they also become conversant with the technical issues which they may have to encounter during the business of the corporation. Then there is another proposal for fixing the tenure of the independent directors. Proposal of 10 years has been mooted in 2 stages, 5 years term each. Then there is another issue that many a times independent directors have dispute with the management and they resign, but the reasons are not known to the public and the shareholders. The proposal is there, when the independent director resigns, then the reason should be stated. He should be made to state the reasons, and those reasons have to be circulated amongst the shareholders. There should also be a clarity about the remuneration of the independent directors. And there is a proposal that the performance of the independent directors should be evaluated by their peers, that is the other directors on the board. There is a proposal that there should be meetings of the independent directors, there should be exclusive meetings of the independent directors, so that they can discuss the issues which they don't want to discuss before the management, because they may not be, those issues may not be palatable to the management. So therefore, the independent directors should have freedom to meet independently, and a concept of lead independent director has also been mooted, so that there is someone who is able to coordinate amongst different independent directors and also the management. There is another proposal that the number of directorships which a single person can accept should also be limited. There is a proposal for 7 independent directorships because it is realized that one cannot devote the required time if number of directorships are too many. So considering that, there is also proposal that the board should put up a succession plan. They should have a succession plan in place, and that succession plan should be circulated to the board of directors, and independent directors should have a view on that. There is also, after this financial crisis, OECD has come out with a principle that there should be a risk management plan which should be discussed. Then there is a proposal that the internal auditor of the company should report to the audit committee and not only to the management. For day-to-day functioning, he may report to the management and coordinate with the management, but his findings should be, as far as his technical findings or findings on the financial accounts are concerned, he should report to the audit committee. There is also a proposal that there should be a rotation of the auditors after 5 years. Because it is realized that if the auditor continues, a single auditor continues for a very long time, then he may develop relationships with the management which may not be in the interest of the shareholders. Then there is a proposal to lay down a mechanism for whistleblower, and this is to be made a compulsory requirement. There is also a proposal for making a remuneration committee a mandatory one and expanding its scope. There is also a proposal for constituting a grievance committee in every company so that the grievances of the stakeholders are redressed at the earliest. To increase participation of the shareholders in the decision-making process, provision of e-voting is to be made compulsory. Then another very important issue which is to be addressed through corporate governance is the related party transactions. The various committees have taken a very serious view of the related party transactions and their disclosure, and it is being mandated that the shareholders should give approval whenever there is a divestment of the subsidiary. The present regulation, the present provisions of the Companies Act do not provide for this. At the moment, there is a provision for disclosure of related party transactions periodically. But the proposal has been made that such disclosures should be made on a continuous basis so that the board may deliberate on them, and if any preventive action is required, if any corrective action is required, that may be taken at the right point of time. There has been a tendency amongst the corporations to enter into certain agreements which provide, especially with the PE funds, etc., which provide superior rights to those shareholders. This aspect has also been highlighted, and a proposal has been made that such affirmative rights to certain shareholders should not be given. For certain related party transactions need to be approved by the majority of the minority. This is a proposal. And also certain transactions may require pre-approval of the audit committee. These are very, I think, very revolutionary kind of provisions which the regulator is thinking of putting in place. That is why they have been brought in the public domain, and before they are implemented, public opinion is being sought. There is a proposal for laying down fiduciary responsibility of the controlling stakeholders and also strengthening the enforcement by the private sector. So friends, in India, this aspect of corporate governance is being highlighted very much because we as a regulator feel that it will not be possible to mobilize the retail money from the market unless the investors' faith is reposed in the markets. We have got, even at present, we have got a set of rules in place, but I would like to admit that enforcement becomes a enforcement becomes an issue. Therefore, we are now trying to see that the enforcement of the corporate governance rules is further strengthened. We are also proposing for the rating by the credit rating agencies as far as the corporate governance is concerned, and such rating should be circulated amongst the shareholders. So friends, once we get the feedback about the proposals which I have very briefly mentioned before you, India will be in a position to put a very effective framework of corporate governance, and probably the whole landscape of corporate governance may change in India. And the Companies Act is already providing for various powers to the various regulators like Ministry of Corporate Affairs and SEBI to have a very effective regulatory framework. So probably once the bill is passed and once these guidelines are put in place by the regulator, I think regulatory framework for the corporate governance will be very robust and effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agarwal, for illuminating the Indian position on various issues of corporate governance in the financial sector, and especially pointing to the role of the regulator. Thank you very much.